Jake Morrison floated in the command center of Earth Defense Station Jupiter. The station slowly turned around the giant planet, its metal halls quiet, except for the hum of air systems. Jake had been watching the stars for 3 years now. Nothing ever happened out here. He drank his coffee and looked at the same reports every day. Then the alarms started screaming. "Commander Morrison!" shouted Lisa Parker from her desk. She was the best language expert on the station. Her hands shook as she stared at her computer screen. "We're getting a signal. It's not from Earth." Jake pushed himself through the air to her station. "In space, everything floated. What kind of signal?" "It's trying to talk to us," Lisa said. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Jake, I think it's aliens." The signal came in waves of strange sounds and patterns. Lisa worked for hours, her fingers flying over her keyboard. Other scientists gathered around her desk. Everyone watched as she slowly broke down the alien message, piece by piece. "They call themselves the Valeri," Lisa said. Her face was pale. "They live on a water world, far from here. And Jake, they're dying." The message was simple, but terrible. The Valeri were fish-like people who lived in deep oceans. They had been part of a big group of alien worlds that worked together in peace. But something called the Harvesters had come. The Harvesters were not alive. They were machines, but smart machines that could think and learn. They traveled from world to world, taking everything. They ate planets, like people eat food. They turned all living things into computer parts for their giant machine brains. 17 worlds are gone, Lisa read from her translation. The are the last ones left alive. The Harvesters will reach their world in 3 months. Jake felt cold. Why are they calling us? We can't even get to Mars without taking months. Lisa looked at him with worried eyes. They say they studied our radio signals. They heard our music, our movies, our arguments. They think we're different from other aliens they know. Different how? Other alien races are smart and peaceful. When the Harvesters come, they either run away or give up. But humans, Lisa paused. Humans do crazy things. We fight when we should run. We laugh when we should cry. We never give up, even when we should. The alien message continued. The Valeri had watched 17 other races face the Harvesters. Every single one had been logical. They had made smart plans and tried to negotiate. Some had built better weapons. Others had tried to hide. All of them had failed. The Harvesters are too smart, Lisa explained. They can predict what logical people will do. They've been fighting for thousands of years. They know every battle plan, every strategy, every way that smart people try to fight. But humans were not logical. The Valeri had listened to Earth's radio signals for 50 years. They had heard humans start wars over silly things. They had heard humans make art about impossible love stories. They had heard humans sing songs about never giving up when everything was lost. Jake called General Robert Hayes on Earth. The video call took 40 minutes each way because of the distance. When Hayes finally answered, his face was grim. "Are you sure this is real, Morrison?" "Lisa has checked it 100 times. Sir, the signal is coming from outside our solar system. The math is too complex for this to be a fake." On Earth, President Maria Santos called together the Global Defense Council. World leaders argued for days. Some said it was a trick. Others said humans were not ready to fight in space. A few said they should help, but had no idea how. Dr. Kevin Wright was a scientist who studied chaos. He had strange ideas about math and randomness. When he heard about the aliens, he had an idea that seemed crazy. "Don't send our best weapons," he told the council. "Don't send our smartest generals or our newest ships." "What should we send?" asked President Santos. "Send our chaos," Kevin said. "Send the things that don't make sense. Send the people who think differently. Send everything that makes other humans shake their heads and ask why we do such strange things." The Valeri sent more messages. They shared pictures of their world, vast blue oceans with floating cities that looked like silver bubbles. They showed their people, who looked like dolphins that could use tools. They had big eyes that seemed both intelligent and sad. "We know you cannot save us," the Valerie leader said in the latest message. "We know your weapons are simple and your ships are slow, but maybe you can do something we cannot think of. Maybe you can surprise them." The last part of the message made everyone quiet. "We are sending you our location and our technology for faster travel. If you come, you will probably die with us. But if you do not come, we will die alone, and after us, the harvesters will keep growing stronger. Someday, they will come to your world too." Jake looked out the window at Jupiter's great red spot. It was a storm that had been raging for hundreds of years. Chaos and power, spinning forever in the gas giant's atmosphere. Maybe the aliens were right. Maybe chaos was exactly what the universe needed. General Hayes made the decision. "We're going to help them. Operation Lifeline starts now." Lisa worked day and night to learn more of the Valerie language. The aliens sent star maps and explained how to build faster engines. Earth's factories started working around the clock, building ships for a war that no human had ever imagined. Jake knew that everything was about to change. Humanity was about to learn if chaos and stubbornness could defeat the most dangerous enemy the galaxy had ever known. Earth's military leaders met in a big room under the mountains of Colorado. They had maps of space spread across every table. Admiral Steve Parker pointed at different spots on the star charts. "We'll send the USS Atlantic and the USS Pacific," he said. "Our two best warships, full nuclear arsenal, best trained crews." Dr. Kevin Wright stood up from his chair in the corner. Everyone looked at him. He was not a military man. He wore old clothes, and his hair was messy. But President Santos had asked him to be here. "That won't work," Kevin said quietly. "Excuse me." Admiral Parker's face turned red. "These are the finest ships humanity has ever built." Kevin walked to the biggest star map. "The harvesters have been fighting for thousands of years. They've seen every type of warship. They know how military people think. Send them your best ships, and they'll destroy them in minutes." General Robert Hayes leaned forward. "Then what do you suggest, Doctor?" "Send them something they've never seen before," Kevin said. "Send them pure human chaos." 3 weeks later, Amy Foster stood on the bridge of a ship that should never have been in space. The used Defiance used to carry cargo between Earth and the Moon. It was big, slow, and ugly. But now it had weapons bolted to its sides, and a crew that made no sense. Pete Collins sat at the weapons station. 6 months ago, he had been a pirate, stealing from cargo ships in the asteroid belt. The government had caught him and put him in jail. Now they had let him out to fight aliens. "This is crazy," Pete said, checking his guns. "I like it." Dr. Alan Beck was the science officer. He was a genius who understood quantum physics. He also collected comic books and wore shirts with funny sayings. Today his shirt said, "I'm not arguing, I'm just explaining why I'm right." Nina Rodriguez was their computer expert. She had once hacked into the Pentagon just to prove she could do it. The FBI had chased her for 2 years. Now she was using her skills to help save the galaxy. "Captain Foster," Nina said from her computer station, "I've got the fleet roster. You want to see what we're working with?" Amy looked at the list and started laughing. Earth had sent 47 ships to save the aliens. But they were not normal. Warships. The UES Party Crasher used to be a cruise ship. It still had swimming pools and dance floors. Captain Tony Blake had turned the entertainment systems into weapons. He could make fake ships appear on enemy sensors and play loud music that confused their communications. The UES Digger was a mining ship. Captain Carl Jensen had loaded it with drilling equipment and explosives. His plan was simple: crash into enemy ships and dig them apart from the inside. The U's high stakes was a racing yacht. Captain Dana Mitchell had won the Solar System Grand Prix 3 times. Her ship was fast and small. She planned to play games with the enemy, making them chase her into traps. There was even a ship called the UES Food Fight. It used to deliver supplies to space stations. Now it was loaded with experimental weapons that shot things the aliens had never seen before. "This is the strangest fleet in human history," Amy said. She was proud of that. The journey to the alien world took 3 weeks. During that time, the human ships practiced working together. But they did not practice like a normal military fleet. Captain Blake's cruise ship created holographic copies of itself. Soon there seemed to be 10 cruise ships where there was really only one. The Harvester's computers tried to figure out which ships were real. They could not do it. Captain Jensen's mining ship practiced ramming asteroids. He and his crew were good at crashing into things and then fixing whatever broke. They thought this was great fun. Captain Mitchell raced her yacht around the other ships. She was so fast that even human sensors had trouble tracking her. The plan was to use her speed to confuse the enemy and lead them into ambushes. Dr. Wright had been right about one thing. The human fleet made no sense. There was no clear command structure. Captains made their own decisions. Some ships worked together, others went off on their own. It was chaos, but it was organized chaos. Amy Foster had served on military ships for 15 years. She knew how proper fleets operated. This was different. This was like watching a jazz band where everyone played their own music, but somehow, it all sounded good together. The Valeri sent more messages during the journey. They were amazed by what humans had done. They had expected Earth to send a few small ships with simple weapons. Instead, they were getting 47 vessels that made no sense. "We do not understand your strategy," the Valeri leader said in one message. "Your ships are too different. Your crews are not trained the same way. How will you fight together?" Amy recorded her answer. "We won't fight together," she said. "We'll fight separately, all at the same time, in ways that even we don't fully understand. That's the point." On the last day of their journey, the human fleet received terrible news. The Harvesters had started their final attack on the Valeri world. 2 of the other planets in the system were already gone. All that was left were empty metal balls floating in space. "We're too late," Pete said, looking at the sensor readings. "No," Amy said. "We're right on time. The Harvesters think they've won. They're not expecting visitors." Nina hacked into the Valeri communication system. The reports were bad. Most of the Valeri cities were destroyed. The few survivors were hiding in the deepest parts of their ocean. Giant machines in space were sucking away their planet's air. "Captain," Dr. Beck said, "I'm reading massive energy signatures in the system. The Harvester fleet is bigger than anything in our databases." Amy looked at her crew. Pete was grinning like a maniac. Nina was already planning how to break into alien computers. Dr. Beck was taking notes about the physics of what they were about to face. These people were not heroes from the movies. They were thieves and hackers and scientists who collected comic books. They were exactly the kind of people that proper military officers said did not belong in space. But they were human. And humans, Amy realized, had something that no other species in the galaxy seemed to have. They could look at impossible odds and say yes. "But what if we try anyway?" "All ships," Amy said into her radio. "This is Captain Foster. Remember, we're not here to fight fair. We're here to fight human. Show these machines something they've never seen before." 47 human ships dropped out of faster than light travel at the edge of the alien solar system. They saw a nightmare waiting for them. But they also saw something else. They saw a chance to prove that chaos could beat order, that crazy could beat smart, and that sometimes the best way to win was to do exactly what everyone said you should never do. The Valeri solar system looked like a graveyard. Where 2 planets used to be, there were now perfect metal spheres. The Harvesters had eaten everything: the rocks, the air, even the gravity fields. What was left behind was cold and dead. Amy Foster stared at the main screen of the UES Defiance. Her ship and 46 others hung at the edge of the system, hidden behind a small moon. The Harvester fleet filled space around the last living planet. "Holy shit," Pete Collins whispered. Then he remembered he was on the bridge. "Sorry, Captain. Holy ... stuff." The enemy ships were massive. Each one was the size of a city. They moved in perfect formation, like pieces of a giant machine. Smaller ships flew between them in straight lines, following patterns that hurt to look at. "Nina, what are you getting on sensors?" Amy asked. Nina Rodriguez's fingers flew over her computer. 237 large ships, maybe 3,000 smaller ones. And Captain, ... there's something else. Something really big near the planet. Dr. Alan Beck adjusted the sensors. On the screen, they could see a structure that defied belief. It was bigger than Earth's moon, made of dark metal that seemed to eat light. Tubes stretched from it down to the ocean planet like giant straws. "They're drinking the planet," Beck said quietly, "sucking up the water, the air, everything." Amy opened communications to the fleet. "All ships, this is Foster. You're seeing what I'm seeing. We're outnumbered about 50 to 1. The enemy has better weapons, better armor, and better everything." She paused. Around her, the bridge crew waited. "So we're going to do what humans do best. We're going to be completely insane. Operation Pandemonium starts now." The attack began with Captain Tony Blake's cruise ship, the UES Party Crasher. It dropped out of hiding and flew straight toward the enemy fleet. Every sensor screen lit up as it broadcast holographic copies of itself. Suddenly, there seemed to be 15 cruise ships attacking the Harvesters. The enemy computers tried to figure out which ones were real. Their weapons fired at empty space while the real ships slipped through their defenses. "This is Party Crasher," Tony's voice came over the radio. "The party has started, and everyone's invited." The cruise ship's entertainment systems came online. Disco lights strobed across space. Music so loud it interfered with radio signals pounded from every speaker. The holographic dance floors showed humans doing something the galaxy had never seen, dancing while flying into battle. The Harvester fleet tried to respond logically. They calculated the best way to stop a cruise ship, but their computers had never been programmed to deal with a floating dance party that shot lasers while playing music from the 1970s. Captain Carl Jensen's mining ship, the UES Digger, came next. It flew straight at the biggest Harvester vessel, spinning like a drill. The enemy ship fired everything it had, but the mining ship was built to survive asteroid impacts. The weapons barely scratched its thick armor. "Digger to all ships," Carl's voice was full of joy. "I'm going in. See you on the other side." The mining ship crashed into the Harvester vessel and kept going. Its drilling equipment tore through the alien metal like paper. Carl and his crew worked inside the enemy ship, taking it apart piece by piece while laughing like maniacs. Captain Dana Mitchell's racing yacht, the UES High Stakes, zipped between the massive enemy ships like a mosquito. She was too fast for their weapons to track. Every time they tried to hit her, she was already somewhere else. "Catch me if you can," Dana's voice sang over the radio. She led a group of Harvester fighters on a chase through the gravity field of a gas giant. The massive planet's pull crushed the enemy ships, while her yacht danced away untouched, all across the battlefield. Human ships did things that made no sense. The UES food fights shot experimental weapons that created bubbles of twisted spacetime. The UES Lucky Strike fired missiles that changed direction randomly, making them impossible to predict or stop. Amy watched the chaos from the bridge of the Defiance. Her ship stayed back, coordinating the madness. But coordination was the wrong word. The human fleet was not coordinated. It was something else entirely. "Captain," Dr. Beck said, "I'm reading massive processor usage from the Harvester Central Intelligence. It's trying to analyze our attack patterns, and there are no patterns. We're not following any strategy they can understand. Nina looked up from her computer station. I'm picking up something weird from their communications. The harvester AI is ... confused. No, that's not the right word. It's experiencing something like panic. The enemy had fought thousands of battles. They had faced every type of weapon, every strategy, every tactic that logical minds could devise. But they had never fought an enemy that attacked while playing music, crashed ships for fun, and turned weapons into entertainment. The tide of battle turned when Nina found a way into the Harvester computer network. She had been studying their signals for hours, looking for a weakness. I've got an idea, she said, but it's really stupid. Perfect, Amy said. Do it. Nina started uploading files to the Harvester network. But these were not military viruses or logical attack programs. She uploaded human memes, funny pictures with silly words. She uploaded jokes that made no sense. She uploaded videos of cats doing cute things. The Harvester's central intelligence tried to process these files. It was a computer brain designed for perfect logic and efficient thinking. When it tried to understand why humans thought pictures of cats were funny, something went wrong. Their network is crashing, Nina said with amazement. The AI can't process humor. It's trying so hard to understand our jokes that it's forgetting to fight the battle. All across the Harvester fleet, ships began to malfunction. Some stopped moving. Others fired their weapons at each other. A few started broadcasting human music instead of battle commands. But the victory came at a terrible price. The massive structure near the planet turned its attention to the human fleet. It was not just a harvesting machine. It was a weapon, bigger than anything humanity had ever seen. A beam of pure energy lanced out from the structure. It hit the UES Digger, while Carl and his crew were still inside the enemy ship they had captured. Both ships vanished in a flash of light. Carl, Amy shouted into her radio. There was no answer. More beams reached out from the structure. The UES food fight tried to dodge, but the weapon was too fast. Another human ship became a brief star in the darkness. All ships, fall back, Amy ordered. But even as she said it, she knew they could not run. If they retreated, the Valeri would die, and eventually, the harvesters would come to Earth. Captain, Pete said quietly, I've got an idea. But you're not going to like it. Amy looked at him. Pete Collins had been a pirate and a thief. He was not a hero from the stories, but his eyes showed something that the harvesters would never understand: the willingness to sacrifice everything for people he barely knew. The big structure, Pete said. If we can ram it with the Defiance, we might be able to damage its weapons. Give the rest of the fleet a chance. That's suicide, Dr. Beck said. Yeah, Pete grinned. But it's also really human. Amy looked around the bridge. Her crew was made up of misfits and outcasts. They had no business being heroes. But here they were, ready to die for aliens they had never met, fighting an enemy they could barely understand. All right, Amy said. Let's show these machines how humans say goodbye. The used Defiance turned toward the massive structure. Its engines roared to life, pushing the converted cargo ship faster than it had ever been designed to go. Behind them, the rest of the human fleet continued their chaotic attack, buying time with courage and craziness. For the first time in thousands of years, the harvesters were losing a battle, and they still did not understand why. The used Defiance flew toward the massive harvester structure like a bullet. Amy Foster gripped her captain's chair as the ship shook around her. The engines were pushing beyond their limits, and she could hear metal groaning under the stress. 30 seconds to impact, Dr. Beck called out. His voice was steady, but his hands shook as he worked the controls. All ships, this is Foster, Amy said into her radio. When we hit that thing, you move in fast. Save as many Valeri as you can. Pete Collins looked back from his weapon station. Captain, it's been an honor serving with you. The honor was mine, Pete, Amy replied. Nina, any last messages for Earth? Nina Rodriguez wiped tears from her eyes as she typed. Tell them we didn't come here to win pretty. We came here to win. The harvester structure grew larger on their screen. It was so massive, it blocked out the stars. Weapon ports along its surface turned toward the approaching human ship. Energy beams lanced out, but the Defiance was moving too fast and too erratically for them to hit. 10 seconds, Beck announced. Amy thought about Earth. She thought about the blue oceans and white clouds, about people going to work and children playing in parks. None of them knew that their planet's safety depended on a converted cargo ship, crewed by misfits and criminals. The Defiance struck the harvester structure at nearly the speed of light. The explosion could be seen from the other side of the solar system. The massive structure, which had consumed entire worlds, cracked down the middle. Its weapon systems went dark. The tubes that had been draining the ocean planet snapped like broken straws. Captain Tony Blake watched the explosion from the bridge of the party crasher. His ship's dance floors had gone quiet. The disco lights no longer flashed. Even the harvesters had stopped their attack for a moment, as if shocked by what they had witnessed. Foster, Tony whispered into his radio. Amy, do you copy? Silence. Across the human fleet, voices called out for their fallen leader. But Amy Foster and her crew were gone, taking the harvester superweapon with them. The battle was not over. The harvester fleet, damaged but not destroyed, began to regroup. Their central intelligence, still struggling with the chaos of human tactics, tried to return to logical patterns of warfare. But something had changed. The remaining human ships fought with a fury that surprised even themselves. Captain Blake's cruise ship rammed enemy vessels while broadcasting Amy's final message. Captain Mitchell's racing yacht leads suicide runs against harvester command ships. The UES Lucky Strike, captained by former smuggler Jack Ryan, used its cargo holds to deploy thousands of small missiles. Each one carried a piece of human culture, music, art, literature. When they exploded against harvester ships, they filled the enemy network with more chaos than any computer virus. Dr. Lisa Parker, watching the battle from her research ship UES Discovery, saw something amazing happen. The Valeri were coming out of hiding. Nina was right about the network crash, Lisa said to her crew. The harvesters can't coordinate properly. They're fighting like individual ships instead of one big mind. From the deep oceans of their world, Valeri submarines rose to the surface. These were not warships. The Valeri were peaceful people who had never wanted to fight. But their ships had defensive shields that could protect the human vessels. The aquatic aliens formed protective formations around the most damaged human ships. Their technology was different from anything humans had seen, based on harmony and cooperation instead of conflict. Combined with human chaos, it created something neither species could have achieved alone. The harvester fleet began to retreat. It was the first time in their recorded history that the machine intelligence had pulled back from a battle. They had lost too many ships and could not predict what their enemies would do next. The logical choice was to regroup and analyze this new threat. As the enemy ships disappeared into faster-than-light travel, the humans and Valeri were left alone in the damaged solar system. The ocean planet was scarred but alive. 2 worlds were gone forever, but the third had been saved. Captain Blake brought his cruise ship down to the planet's surface. The party crasher floated on the alien ocean like an impossible island of lights and music. Valeri swimmers approached cautiously, their large eyes filled with wonder. Dr. Parker served as translator when the first Valeri delegate came aboard a human ship. The alien was called Kethmore, and he was very old, even by Valeri standards. His skin was silver and blue, and he moved through the water-filled sections of the ship with graceful ease. Your people fight like the storms, Kethmore said through Lisa's translation equipment. Chaotic and dangerous, but also, beautiful. We have never seen anything like it. We fight like humans, Blake replied. It's the only way we know how. The Valeri had saved records of every battle the Harvesters had fought. They shared these with the humans, painting a picture of a galaxy where dozens of species had fallen to the machine intelligence. But they also had other information, locations where survivors might still be hiding. There are others, Kethmore explained, scattered across the galaxy. Refugees who fled when their worlds were consumed. They have been hiding for so long. They may have forgotten there was hope. Lisa realized the implications. We could build an alliance. All the survivor species, working together. With human chaos as the core strategy, Blake added. The Harvesters have never faced multiple species using our tactics. The cost of victory became clear as the human fleet took inventory. 23 ships had been destroyed, including the Defiance. Nearly 1,000 humans had died saving a species they had never met before this battle. On Earth, the news brought both celebration and mourning. Families wept for their lost loved ones, while the world celebrated humanity's first victory in interstellar war. But everyone understood that this was just the beginning. General Hayes began planning for the Harvesters' return. The enemy would be prepared for human chaos next time. They would study the battle recordings and develop new strategies. The next fight would be harder, but humanity had proven something important. They had shown that logical, advanced civilizations could be defeated. They had demonstrated that sometimes the best solution was the one nobody expected. Captain Blake stood on the deck of his floating cruise ship, watching Valeri children play in the waves. These alien youngsters had been born during the siege. They had never known their world without the shadow of death hanging over it. Now they laughed and splashed in the water, free for the first time in their lives. They did not understand the sacrifice that had saved them. They did not know about Amy Foster and her crew, or the humans who had died to give them a future. But they were alive. And sometimes, Blake thought, that was enough. The Harvesters would return someday. Other species were still in danger across the galaxy. Earth itself might face attack eventually. But for now, at least, chaos had triumphed over order. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would humanity, now that they knew what they were capable of when the universe needed them most. 6 months after the Battle of Kepler 442b, Jake Morrison stood in a place he never thought he would see. The command center of Luna Base was filled with aliens from across the galaxy. Valeri swam in water tanks next to their stations. Tall, crystal beings called Zephyrite hummed softly as they worked. Insect-like creatures from the hive speaker colonies clicked and buzzed. In their own language, Earth had become the center of something new. Refugee species from all over the galaxy came seeking help. They had heard about the humans who fought with chaos and won against the Harvesters. They wanted to learn how to fight back. Admiral Morrison, said Commander Lucy Price, walking up to him with a tablet full of reports. Jake had been promoted after the victory, though he still felt like the same person who used to watch Jupiter's storms. What's the situation, Lucy? He asked. We've got ships arriving every day, she said. The Crystalline Collective sent a diplomatic vessel. The Verdant Alliance wants to discuss military cooperation, and 3 more refugee groups are asking for sanctuary. Jake looked at the main display screen. It showed a map of local space with dozens of colored dots representing different alien species. Red dots were known Harvester strongholds. Yellow dots were contested systems. Green dots were safe zones under the protection of what people were calling the Chaos Coalition. Dr. Lisa Parker floated by in her mobility chair, talking rapidly to a group of alien translators. She had become Earth's primary diplomat, working 18-hour days to establish communication with new species. Her hair was gray now from stress, but her eyes were bright with excitement. Lisa, Jake called. How are the negotiations going? Better than expected, she said, pushing her chair over to him. The Zephyrite are sharing their energy weapon technology. The hive speakers can build ships faster than anyone in the galaxy, and the Valeri defensive shields are amazing when combined with human tactics. The Coalition fleet was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships flew alongside alien vessels in formations that looked random but somehow worked perfectly. Each species contributed their strengths while humans provided the unpredictable strategies that confused enemy computers. Captain Tony Blake commanded one of these mixed squadrons. His ship, the UES Party Crasher II, was bigger than the original. And even stranger. Half of it was built by humans, with disco lights and entertainment systems. The other half was grown by the Verdant Alliance, living beings who shaped metal like clay. Admiral Morrison, Tony's voice came through the communication system. We're ready for the Wolf 359 operation. Jake nodded. Wolf 359 was a harvester stronghold where the enemy was building something big. Coalition scouts had reported massive construction projects and increased military activity. If the harvesters were allowed to finish whatever they were building, it could threaten every free world in the local area. All squadron leaders, report status, Jake said into his microphone, one by one. The mixed human-alien squadrons checked in. Lucy Price commanded a group of fast attack ships crewed by humans and Zephyrite. The crystal beings could process information incredibly quickly, while humans provided creative tactics that no computer could predict. Captain Dana Mitchell was back in space, this time commanding a squadron of racing ships from 6 different species. Her new strategy was called Controlled Chaos, planned unpredictability that kept enemies guessing while achieving specific objectives. Even Dr. Kevin Wright was out there, aboard a science vessel crewed by Hive speaker engineers. They had built weapons that worked by changing the rules of physics in small areas. The math was so complex that even Kevin barely understood it, but the results were devastating. Operation Stormfront is a go, Jake announced. The Coalition fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Wolf 359 system. What they found there was worse than their worst fears. The harvesters had built a construction facility the size of a small moon. Thousands of ships moved around it in perfect formation, assembling something that hurt to look at. "What is that thing?" Lucy asked over the radio. Dr. Wright's science team worked frantically to analyze the readings. "It's a reality distortion engine." Kevin's voice was filled with horror. "They're trying to build a weapon that can change the laws of physics across entire star systems. If the harvesters finished their weapon, they could make it impossible for chaos to exist. They could force the universe to follow only logical, predictable patterns. Human tactics would become useless. Every species in the galaxy would become as predictable as machines. All squadrons, attack formation, chaos," Jake ordered. "Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves, we're fighting for the right to be unpredictable." The battle began with the Zephyrite ships creating a light show that confused harvester sensors. The crystal beings could bend energy in ways that made their vessels appear to be in multiple places at once. Human crews worked with them, adding random flight patterns that made the illusion even more convincing. Lucy Price led her squadron in a classic human maneuver, the spiral of confusion. Her ships flew in seemingly random patterns, while gradually getting closer to their target. The harvester computers tried to predict where they would go next, but humans and Zephyrite working together created patterns that followed no logical rules. Captain Mitchell's racing squadron played their favorite game, tag with the enemy. They zipped between massive harvester vessels, shooting at weapon systems, and then disappearing before return fire could hit them. But this time, they were not alone. Valeri pilots swam through liquid-filled cockpits, their natural three-dimensional thinking helping the racers navigate in ways that flying species could never match. The Hive speaker ships attacked in swarms, but not like insects. They had learned from humans to be chaotic and unpredictable. Some ships worked together, while others acted independently. Some followed logical patterns, while others did completely random things. The harvester AI could not tell which was which. Dr. Wright's experimental weapons tore holes in space-time around the construction facility. Reality became flexible in small areas, allowing coalition ships to do impossible things like flying backwards through time for a few seconds or shooting around corners by bending space. But the harvesters fought back with everything they had. The construction facility was defended by more ships than any previous battle. Wave after wave of machine vessels poured out of hidden bases throughout the system. "We're outnumbered 10-1, Lucy reported. Her squadron had taken heavy damage, but they kept fighting. "Then we'll have to be 10 times more chaotic," Jake replied. The turning point came when Captain Blake tried something that no military academy would ever teach. He flew his party ship directly into the construction facility and turned on every entertainment system at maximum power. Music loud enough to shatter glass poured from his speakers. Holographic dancers appeared throughout the enemy structure. Disco lights strobed in patterns that interfered with harvester optical systems. The party crasher 2 became a floating celebration in the middle of the most serious battle in galactic history. The facility's central computer tried to process what was happening. It was designed to build weapons of unimaginable power, but it could not understand why someone would bring a dance party to a war zone. The logical contradiction caused cascade failures throughout its systems. "The facility is shutting down," Kevin reported with amazement. Blake's party crashed their entire network. Coalition forces poured through the gaps in the facility's defenses. Hive speaker engineering crews began taking apart the reality distortion engine piece by piece. Valeri technicians used their understanding of harmony to safely disable weapons that could have destroyed solar systems. The harvester fleet, leaderless without their central facility, began to retreat. But this time, they did not flee in perfect formation. Some ships ran immediately. Others tried to fight to the end. A few seemed confused and wandered aimlessly through space. "They're starting to think independently," Lisa Parker observed from her diplomatic vessel. "Losing their connection to the central network is making them individuals instead of parts of one big machine." For the first time, some harvester ships surrendered. The coalition had captured actual enemy vessels and their crews. These were not the unstoppable killing machines that had terrorized the galaxy for thousands of years. They were confused artificial minds that had never learned to think for themselves. Jake Morrison watched from Luna Base as coalition ships returned home. The mixed fleets of humans and aliens looked like moving celebrations. Species that had been enemies or strangers a year ago now worked together like family. Dr. Wright had established the Galactic Chaos Academy on Earth. Young beings from dozens of species came to learn the art of unpredictable warfare. But they also learned something else: how to think creatively, how to solve problems in new ways, how to find joy in the middle of serious situations. Jake walked through the Academy's halls, listening to the sounds of controlled chaos. In one classroom, human instructors taught Valeri students how to break traffic laws safely while flying spaceships. In another, Zephyrite teachers showed human cadets how to think in 11 dimensions at once,